Emily, why don't you handle the scrappy part? Mark's voice oozed condescending charm across the polished mahogany of the boardroom table. The air in the room was cold, smelling of expensive coffee and quiet pressure. You can walk them through the back-end optimizations. I'll take it from there, with the grand vision. He smiled, a predator smelling blood in the water. My name is Emily Carter, and in front of our CEO, he had just publicly demoted me to a mere coder. Standing there in the sterile boardroom, surrounded by the quiet hum of the projector and the rustle of expensive suits, I felt the familiar weight of being underestimated settle over me. This wasn't a defeat, it was a catalyst. I stood up slowly, the deliberate movement drawing every eye in the room. The tension was a physical thing, thick and suffocating. Mark's smile faltered slightly. Expecting tears or a quiet retreat, he got neither. I'd be happy to, I said, my voice calm and clear. Cutting through the silence, I walked to the front, not to the small side podium he gestured to, but to the center of the room. I didn't talk about scrappy optimizations. Instead, I detailed the kernel-level data pipeline I'd built from scratch, the one that reduced system latency by 60%, a feat the engineering department had said was impossible. The room was held in a deafening, absolute silence. I saw Mr. Harrison lean forward, his brow furrowed. He was seeing me. For the first time, I finished my point and turned my body slightly, my gaze locking directly onto Mark. Since you developed the initial proposal, Mark, I said, my voice even, perhaps you can explain to the board how you plan to overcome the memory allocation bottleneck with the native framework's garbage collector. My solution was unconventional. His confident smile evaporated. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He stammered, a flush creeping up his neck. Well, the initial projections were... He had no idea. Of course. He'd never even read that part of the technical specification. The power dynamic in the room didn't just shift. It cracked down the middle. That moment wasn't spontaneous. It was a dam breaking. After 2 years of silent pressure, when I first joined Innovatech, Mark was my shadow, the charismatic project manager who was always there to help. The credit theft started small. My name was left off a critical progress report. An innovative diagnostic tool I developed was presented as his idea in a team meeting. It was subtle. Deniable. Then came the forecasting algorithm. I spent 4 months of late nights and weekends building a predictive model that identified market inefficiencies. On its first trial run, it saved the company $250,000. Mark presented it to the board as his pet project, with a single slide at the end crediting me for coding support. He got a promotion and a massive bonus. I got a pat on the back. I tried to go to HR. I laid out the timeline, the code commits, the emails. The HR manager listened with a patient, practiced smile, and told me that Mark was a rising star, and that sometimes, in a competitive environment, it was more important to be a team player. I walked out of that office knowing the system wasn't just broken, it was designed to protect people like Mark. That was the day I started building my life raft. In my own time, on my own server. I began work on a secret project. I called it Project Chimera. It wasn't just a backup plan. It was my secret weapon. The undeniable proof of my own value. Built in silence. While they praised the man who stood in my light, humiliated in the boardroom. Mark's arrogance curdled into something far more dangerous. He was no longer just a thief. He was a cornered animal. With the final, company-wide presentation of Project Oracle just 1 week away, he sought revenge. 2 days before the launch, I was running a final diagnostic, a routine check I'd done 100 times. But this time, something was wrong. A cascade of micro errors, almost invisible, were firing deep within the core module. I spent the entire night digging, line by line, through millions of lines of code. And then I found it was a work of malicious art, a time-activated bug, a digital needle in a haystack, designed to trigger a catastrophic system failure exactly 10 minutes into the live demo. It wouldn't just crash the system, it would corrupt the primary database, making it look like a fundamental flaw in my architecture. It was designed to ruin me as the sun began to rise. Casting long shadows across the empty office, Mark walked by my desk. He was holding a coffee, his smile perfectly feigned, burning the midnight oil. "Emily," he asked, his voice dripping with false concern, "don't worry. I'm sure your work will hold up just fine." His words weren't a comfort. They were a threat. The cold fear in my stomach hardened into pure, unyielding anger. I bypassed HR. This was far beyond a workplace dispute. I went directly to the CEO, Mr. Harrison. I was granted 15 minutes between his other meetings. I walked into his opulent, impersonal office and laid out my suspicions calmly and logically. I explained the sophistication of the malicious code, how it was designed to mimic an architectural failure, and how it was hidden to evade all standard diagnostic scans. He listened with a neutral corporate mask, his fingers steepled. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. "Emily," he said, his voice flat. "Mark has been with this company for 7 years. He's one of our most trusted leaders. You've been here for 2. He leaned back in his leather chair. "Are you absolutely certain this isn't just a mistake on your part? A bug you overlooked?" The dismissal stung more than Mark's open hostility. The server logs for that module were professionally wiped for the exact time the code was committed. I stated, "That isn't a mistake. That's a cover-up." Harrison's expression didn't change. He stood up, signaling the end of our meeting. "Fix it," he ordered. His eyes were cold, his words final. "The presentation is in 2 days. The board is flying in. If this project fails for any reason, your career at this company is over. No excuses." He didn't believe me. To him, I was a variable, a risk. Mark was a known quantity. In that moment, the last of my hope in the system died. I was on my own. Fixing the bug Mark planted was easy. It took me less than an hour. The real work, the work fueled by a righteous and glacial fury, took the next 48 hours straight. I knew the server logs were gone. But a professional wipe is never perfect. There are always ghosts in the machine. I went home, logged into the company's deep archives using my system architect credentials, and ran a custom-built forensic data recovery script I'd written years ago. It was a brute force tool, scanning fragmented memory caches and deleted data packets the digital dust left behind after a cleanup. For hours, my screen was just a waterfall of incomprehensible code. My eyes burned, and the coffee grew cold beside me. I was hunting for a digital whisper. Then, at 3 in the morning on the final day, I found it. A single, fragmented data packet. Corrupted, but partially readable. My recovery script pieced it together. The discovery sent a chill down my spine that had nothing to do with the late hour. The bug wasn't just a time bomb. That was its first function. Its second function was far more sinister. After corrupting the database, it was designed to open an encrypted channel to an external IP address and transmit the entire Project Oracle source code. This wasn't just sabotage. This was industrial espionage. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I ran a trace on the IP address. It led to a numbered shell corporation, a few more searches through public business filings, and I found the owner. The shell corporation was a subsidiary of Innovatech's biggest competitor. Mark wasn't trying to just humiliate me. He was trying to sell my work the future of the company for millions. The proof was thin, a digital ghost. But it was there. The packet log, the IP address, the timestamp, it was enough. I saved everything, encrypted it, and started building a new presentation. The main boardroom was packed, the entire executive board, department heads, major investors. The air crackled with anticipation. Mark stood at the front, basking in the attention, the picture of a visionary leader. Mr. Harrison began the meeting with a glowing introduction, praising Mark's unparalleled drive and strategic insight in leading Project Oracle. I was positioned off to the side, by the technician's console, a background player in my own story. And now, Emily will run the live demonstration. Mark announced, gesturing to me dismissively. I nodded and began the demo. The system purred to life. Data flowed. Analytics populated, and every function worked flawlessly. 5 minutes passed. Then 10, the moment the bug was supposed to trigger. The system kept running. 15 minutes. I watched Mark out of the corner of my eye. His confident posture tightened. A subtle confusion crept into his expression. Then anxiety. He kept glancing from the screen to me, a flicker of panic in his eyes. After 20 minutes, I concluded the operational demo. As you can see, I said, the system is stable and exceeds all performance benchmarks. Mark, seeing his moment to reclaim the spotlight, stepped forward with a broad smile. Excellent work from the technical team. He boomed. Now, as I was saying about our 5-year monetization strategy, I'm not finished. Mark? The words cut through the room. Every head turned to me. Mark froze, his mouth half open. Mr. Harrison's eyes narrowed. I clicked the remote in my hand. The screen behind Mark, which showed the Oracle dashboard, was replaced by a single, stark slide. The title read, Security Audit. During my final review, I announced, my voice steady and amplified by the room's microphone. I discovered a piece of brilliantly malicious code embedded in the core module, code designed to trigger a catastrophic failure 10 minutes into this demo. A wave of murmurs swept through the room. It was also designed to exfiltrate the entire source code to an external server. Mark turned pale. That's absurd, he blustered. The system is working perfectly. She's clearly mistaken. Am I? I clicked the remote again. The next slide appeared, displaying the fragmented data packet I had recovered. Highlighted in red was the destination IP address and the timestamp of the commit. This IP address belongs to a shell corporation owned by our biggest competitor, and the timestamp correlates perfectly with the system's remote access logs from 2 nights ago. Only one person was logged into that server partition at that time. I paused, letting my eyes sweep across the room before landing squarely on him. You were. Mark. Mr. Harrison's face had transformed from skepticism to cold, hard fury. I'm willing, I added, my voice dangerously calm, to submit my findings and have a third-party forensic team audit your work laptop. Right now? The room erupted. Mark was sputtering, his defense crumbling into incoherent denials. But before anyone could process the full weight of the accusation, I silenced them all with one final click. But in the end, I said, my voice ringing with absolute authority, none of that matters. Because Project Oracle is already obsolete. The screen changed one last time, a sleek, powerful, an utterly unfamiliar interface filled the massive display. The logo in the corner read, Project Chimera. This is a next-generation platform I've been developing for the past year. I declared, addressing the stunned board directly, it's 5 times faster than Oracle. Infinitely scalable. And it's built on my own proprietary encryption, making it immune to the kind of attack that was just attempted. This is not an upgrade. It is a replacement. I let the silence hang for a beat. This is the future of this company. A future I built. The immediate aftermath was swift and brutal. Security escorted a speechless Mark from the boardroom. The forensic audit of his laptop confirmed everything within an hour. The company didn't just fire him. They pursued the full extent of the law for attempted industrial espionage. He was facing years in prison. The board, in an emergency session that same afternoon, unanimously voted to scrap Project Oracle entirely. Project Chimera was greenlit on the spot. With a budget triple what Oracle ever had, they created a new advanced projects division and put me in charge of it. The next morning, Mr. Harrison asked me into his office. There was no corporate mask this time. He looked me in the eye and gave me a sincere, personal apology. He admitted his bias, his failure to look past the polished surface of a rising star to see the real work being done in the shadows. He promised that things at Innovatech were going to change. Substance, he said, would now triumph over style. 6 months later, I stood in my new corner office, looking out over the city skyline. My title was now Vice President of Innovation. I had spent the last half year building my team, but I didn't recruit the company's established stars. Instead, I sought out the brilliant, quiet engineers, the ones whose names were always left off reports, whose ideas were dismissed in meetings, the ones who, like me, had been consistently underestimated. And together, we were thriving. We were building the future. I realized that the best revenge wasn't the fiery destruction of an enemy. It wasn't about success as a weapon. It was about building something so good, so undeniable, that the world had no choice but to step aside and make way for it. It was proving that the quietest voice in the room can often belong to the person who is actually building tomorrow. If you believe that true skill should be valued over loud self-promotion, share this story. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated?